Rebellious Studio presents the Mind Body Podcast with your host, Maria Angelova. Hello, Rebels, and welcome to your Mind Body Podcast, to your Rebellious Podcast with your host, me, Maria. This is your podcast all about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. And it is my absolute pleasure to welcome today Dr. Kimberly joining us to share all about her rebellious experience and tell us who the rebel behind is, Dr. Kimberly. Let's start by tell us who you are with 3 words.
I'm a cat lover, number one.
Okay, you like cats. You love cats.
Yes. I love health and healing.
I wonder why you're here on this podcast. So let's start with health and healing. Let's start with healing. Tell us a little bit more about healing. What does healing mean to you? You are very much into the healing world. Tell us a little bit about your world and what does healing mean to you?
You know, when we think about healing, I know many people, they think of it from like a medical standpoint, but I said we need to go deeper, emotional standpoint, spiritual standpoint, because all 3 of these have to be balanced. And so when one is off, it's kind of like you're just weighing back and forth. Hey, something doesn't feel, right. And so healing is addressing those wounds in the different parts of yourself at different ages, different times. So it's digging really deep and trying to figure out what is it that's causing me to feel this way? Why do I have these perspectives about myself, about the world? And, a lot of people don't think about it because they're just going. And so my goal is to bring people into awareness of those pieces of self that we need to address one by one.
I love that. I always say that healing is multidimensional, which is, I think, exactly what you're talking about. And, that's the process of self-discovery, right? And we just want to plop a cream, pop a pill, and not really, who has time to deal with all of that other stuff? And that's what I say, the intention comes. You have to be intentional about healing yourself. And let's also make clear that it doesn't mean that you're physically sick, right? That's
Right.
That you could be sick, but we mean healing as, to me, healing is being your best self, right? Elevating to the best self. How would you describe healing?
And so healing, I feel like, is when you can wake up in the morning, of course, after getting adequate sleep, because sleep is important, that you can track different spots in your body and it feels clear. Not to say that there aren't going to be like life factors that come along, or maybe you had a bad day at work, but when you can truly just lay there and have that conversation with the inner self, and it just feels clear, those psychosomatic feelings people have when they don't feel good, that you don't feel it at all, and you can get through your day, efficiently.
And that goes to body awareness, right? How aware of you, even of your body? Because I know when I start working with people, I'll ask them every session we start with, how does your body feel? And in the beginning, everybody's answer is fine, until they know what I really am asking, right? And then they start saying, I've been thinking on the way here and I didn't sleep well and I didn't eat well and I feel a little bit bloated. So now their perspective and their inner connection to their body and those somatic experiences within their body, very real, because they have that awareness to check in with their body, which unfortunately, I don't think we're taught to do.
No, and that's another thing too. I always say we have to spread awareness, and having conversations, or if you're in a session, guiding your client to converse with whatever you're feeling. And I always say to my clients, well, tell me, how young or how old does she feel? And they'll say, well, she feels about 9, 10 years old. Well, what does she need? And so kind of like, I call it tracking those emotions, but we have to converse with those inner parts of self at the different ages and saying, okay, what can adult you give to her? What would you want her to know? And you would be surprised. Some clients say, this is the weirdest thing I've ever done, but I feel good.
Right? I don't think we slow down enough to have those conversations with ourselves. We're too go, too much on the hamster wheel, which to your point is exactly, that's why we're having this podcast, this conversation, right? To create awareness of, to hopefully make people pause and think, how do I feel right now? What's going on? Is there tension, stiffness, aches? Tell me a little bit about your work and the place. Tell us a little bit about your work first, and then I'll get my follow-up question so people are clear on what it is that you do.
I am a therapist and I love it. I specialize in trauma-related issues, of course, those somatic issues that's connected to it, personality disorders and eating disorders. And I also have a spin of holistic health that I incorporate. So I'm healthy mind counseling and nutrition, because what you eat affects how you feel. And so I've done some seminars where I've had organic farmers come out and bring food and make people aware of what you're eating and how it affects the brain and body connection. And too, like when it comes to trauma, I specialize in these two treatment modalities. It's called EMDR, which stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing, and brain spotting therapy, because where you look affects how you feel. And my clients, I'll do maybe a combination of both, but we do something called mind mapping in the beginning, where we're mapping out those negative thoughts, feelings, visuals, even smells, and we're putting stress levels on those. We're branching out, having them tell me, well, when was a time in the past you felt the same way? What age? I always emphasize we have to put the ages of these things. And when I tell you, I have seen so many people do a whole 180. They may not realize it. They're like, it doesn't feel good. I said, look, in the beginning, EMDR isn't going to feel good. And brain spotting therapy, where I use this pointer to do the bilateral tracking, it's not going to feel good. I've had clients come in here actually convulsing because this is the trauma that was stuck in the body. And I'm like, well, where are you feeling it? I'm feeling it in my chest, my stomach. Does it have a color? Does it have a texture? Or it feels hard. I had someone say they had like some heavy block in their chest. And so while they're focusing on the pointer where they're feeling the most activity in their body, you can see the body becomes more softer, and you can just see them kind of like taking pictures almost. Their eyes blink, blink, blink. I'm like, yes, that's right, brain. Let's keep doing that. And so the SUDS level, or the stress level, can go from a 10 to a 5. And I like to incorporate both. But what I find with brain spotting therapy, that people have more rapid turnarounds, and children do amazing when it comes to brain spotting and EMDR. And I was describing to a client yesterday how not EMDR, which you could do some tapping on your baby, but say like if you have a mother who went through domestic violence, so the baby can feel that trauma. Did you know you can do brain spotting on your infant?
Wow. No, wow.
So it's like, we have to get them out of the womb, trying to heal, especially when mom has gone through a lot. And you can do bilateral stimulation on your baby when you have him or her, and kind of just tapping them left, right, prefrontal lobe processing. It will help soothe the baby as well.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, if you think about, would the rocking be the same kind of thing? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes if I have clients who are stressed out, I'll have them lie down and I'll say, just relax, and I'll kind of rock their body, and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm calming you down. I'm like, think of baby. When we rock about baby, it calms your nervous system down, right?
Yes. I'm sorry. Have you heard of the havening technique?
No, havening technique. No, I have to look that up.
So havening, let's put this down. It's just these movements. So if you imagine hugging yourself and taking some deep breaths in, do you see how it feels so good? Do you feel that?
Ah, you can put me to sleep like that right now.
So
You
I
guys
have,
like that?
and this is good for people who have attachment, issues, who have
Okay.
not been nurtured. And you can do this on your baby, your infant, toddler, and so forth and so on. But with my trauma clients, having them do this, it's like self-soothing, and you're giving yourself the love that you need.
Give yourself a hug, and I use it as a stretch, but it's like give yourself the bigger the hug, the better the stretch.
Yes.
I love the overlap. Yes, there is so much that I used to teach fitness as a fitness, right, for about 30 years, and then I got into Pilates, and that really got me to start seeing the connection of the body and the mind and the emotional state, the spiritual state, right, and how that's reflected into the way we move and what we experience in the body and the tension and so forth. So the work that you're talking about, and I should have totally started by saying we met through Authority magazine, and I was fascinated by your interviews and the work that you do, because I think it's fascinating, right? The brain is wow, the body is wow. And when you started checking out the connection between those two, and how our emotions, how our subconscious affects our life and our results in life, which is something we're never thought about, it's absolutely fascinating. Like I know you're into neuroscience, right? Like that's something that I'm right. See the excitement, that's the same excitement I get. Yes, exactly. So tell me the context of what you do. I mean, you obviously do it some heavy stuff, right? Trauma and such. What is the importance of self-care, of somebody making themselves a priority into, in this case, healing from trauma, but also in daily life, like as a, as a medical professional, what would you say is the importance of taking care of yourself and prioritizing your well-being?
I said, if you will schedule an appointment to see your doctor, to see your fitness training, then you need to schedule appointments with yourself. We are glued to our phones. I'm like, you can put it in your phone, put reminders of, I need to go outside and take a walk if the weather permits. I need to take time off from the screen. And as you know, I'm very, I'm a stickler when it comes to staring at the screen and how it can cause serotonin issues. So reading a book so you can process in between time, and just having conversations with you, because your body is going to respond. Your body has different touch tones, and having that conversation, and I say that to my clients, but I do it as well. I'm not going to do anything, I'm not going to suggest anything to my clients that I don't do. And so I'll have conversations with myself. Okay, Kimberly, what do you need to do today? What do you need for you? Because if you're stressed, then it's a domino effect. Your clients are going to maybe feel that energy. Sometimes when I don't have a client, I'm in here doing my own tapping, deep breathing. I'll go outside and do my own brain spotting, which you can do without having the pointer. You just go out in nature and find a point, maybe on the tree, and just take some deep breathing, and you're going to feel any negative pent up energy kind of just draining down back into the earth. And so I do that, as far as like self-care, because if you can wake up every morning and you're sane and have peace of mind, even though things may happen, I'm like, you're rich if you have that. And doing that breath work is so important. I said, breath work will help regulate your emotions and your reaction time. That's why when we see people like having like road rage, I'll say to myself, yeah, they're not emotionally regulated. Doing those deep breaths in and just blowing out gives your brain a time to think, okay, what are we going to do today? Does that make sense? Logic and reason need to have a conversation before you speak and before you react.
Yeah. I preach breathing a lot, and I tell people, even if you're stressed, and I tell them, you can breathe in the grocery store. Nobody's even going to know what you're doing, right? You can do it while sitting on a conference call and you're staring at the screen. Just take a few breaths and relax, and you'll be shocked how calming that is to your nervous system, right? Most people live in a state of fight or flight all day long.
And that's not good for the brain.
No. Well, let's hear it from a doctor. Why is that not good? Let's hear it from the doctor.
So, adrenaline, the only time we need adrenaline is if we're about to run a marathon, pilates, which I love. If we're in a fight or flight situation, we're being chased by a bear, or the building catches fire, either we're going to put the fire out or go out of this window. But I can tell by looking at my clients, and I know sometimes they may think, oh, she's weird. I'm looking close, because their pupils, if your pupils aren't at a proper size and all I see is more black than blue than green, that's letting me know, oh, her body is dumping out so much adrenaline. No wonder why you cannot sleep, because your brain is like, oh, we want to produce a chemical to help us to go to bed, but we cannot, because adrenaline keeps pumping and pumping. And we see that a lot in people who have PTSD, acute stress disorders, and then cortisol. Mm-hmm. So PTSD and cortisol, there's a connection, and with stress. That's why a lot of people have issues with, losing weight. But cortisol, continuously pumping and pumping, it affects your hippocampus. I was telling a few of my DV clients, I said, why you're having brain fog and you're not able to sleep? I said, because that trauma has shrunk your hippocampus. And so I was showing them a diagram on the computer, and they were like, are you serious? Trauma does that? I said, yes, it does. I said, but guess what? It can reverse by the more positive things we implement into your life: journaling, deep breathing, exercise, and I'm big on healthy nutrition, doing our brain spotting, EMDR, listening to the binaural beats, and I'll send them some links. And so even in session, I'll have binaural beats for trauma and anxiety playing in the background, because I tell them, I said, did you know that the frequencies can help heal you down to the cellular level? I did not know that. I said, that's okay. That's why I'm here to help you. This is what I want you to play at night while you're sleeping. Before you go to bed, I want you to do the tapping. I had someone who had night terrors so badly. I said, this is what I want you to do. Your homework is, before you go to sleep, do tapping until you're tired. In the morning when you wake up, I said, do not get out of that bed until you do the tapping. Do you know that her night terrors, over time, and of course, us doing the EMDR once a week, it went away?
I believe it.
She excused herself. She said, I love coming here, but I just want to tell you, I feel so much better. I said, you're not offending me. I said, this is what I like to hear. And I said, you look so much better. The way she dressed before, kind of dressing down, I noticed when she changed her hair color, things were getting better with her. And she started to wear more bright colors. And I said, I want her to notice these things. But she felt it. And I said, I knew you were getting better when I saw A, B, C, and D. She said, you did? I said, I did. And now I have not heard from her. Usually, if anything goes wrong, I will hear from my clients. I haven't heard a thing. She was doing so much better just by doing bilateral stimulation.
It's fascinating, because a lot of people come to me for pain, aches and body pains and things like that. And of course, there is the physical component, but sometimes, again, there is the multidimensional aspect of pain. And I start seeing them, they come, they're moody, they're snappy, they're irritable, they don't have desire to do anything. And then you start seeing, like, they become lively, they want to do things, they start traveling, they have energy to go and shopping and and their confidence changes, right? And it's because they start feeling better, right?
But do you know, Maria, you can get certified in brain spotting.
Mm, thanks. Something
Yes.
I find stuff like that fascinating. And I mean, the impact it has on people, that's why I love my job, which is, I'm sure that's what you love about yours, is the change that you see in people, right? Somebody who has no desire, is achy, slouchy, and then suddenly they come in, they have all of that body awareness, and it's such a shift, and it's such an impact on their life. And like you said, something as simple as that. Unfortunately, I think sometimes the simplest things we kind of just say, that could not work, right? Because it's too simple to work. And there's so many I would say basic things that we can do to help our body, to help ourselves thrive.
And this is true, because I know I put a pitch out here regarding, physical, pain, or is it psychosomatic pain? How do you know the difference? I said, well, psychosomatic pain can be due to emotional pain. And I said, but it can be, too, from some physical pain. But I said, but we have to always rule out medical, always do that. And so with brain spotting, I know some brain spotters that help clients who have chronic pain just by doing the bilateral and focusing on the pointer, and the pain goes away. And I said, yeah, because what if this is more psychosomatic than physical, or just a combination of both? Because it's just so mind blowing how brain spotting, has helped so many. Because Dr. David Gran, he used to just do EMDR, which EMDR is amazing.
What's EMDR?
Eye movement, desensitization and reprocessing. So he used to do that, but he noticed, because some therapists will have you following the fingers when doing EMDR. I use something called TheraTappers, and let me see if I can. I use this machine, this TheraTapper machine, and so it puts a buzzing sensation in your palms. But what he noticed, at different points, clients felt more activity in their body, and he helped them locate, where. And so with brain spotting, at first I said, what is brain spotting? What is brain spotting? And of course, they made us do brain spotting on one another. And I'm telling you, it's like something that no longer needed to be there was just extracted and absorbed in the universe. It was gone.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. I see it. And the reason I got into the emotional and mental aspect of things is I started seeing clients' movement was changing, because all of us have patterns of movement, and sometimes they'll come and their pattern would be different. And I was like, what did you do different? And sometimes it's I slept on the wrong side of the bed, or but sometimes it's something happened emotionally, or they were really stressed out, and their body, the way they move right away, started changing. And fascinating word. So yeah, well, I feel like you should take that, and I almost feel like you're going to hypnotize me or something. I've been looking. Well, that was very insightful. It makes me think of that book, which I know you mentioned in one of your interviews, The Body Keeps Score. Fascinating book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I suggest that, to all of my clients. I said, you need to know what's going on with you. And that's going to put you in tune. And you're like, okay, and I see why I'm feeling this way. And all of those connections to it, those negative thoughts, the feelings, like the visuals. I mean, having clients who are just triggered by certain smells, or they'll smell a certain aroma, like cigarettes, but they're like, but I don't smoke. And then you start to dig deep and you find out, oh, this person that treated them poorly used to maybe wear this certain perfume, cologne, and so forth.
Yeah. I use essential oils. So I've done some studying around the impact of essential oils on the brain. And that's exactly what it is, right? Aromas and memories are interconnected through the brain, through the limbic system of the brain, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So if you were to give 3 tips to people to take care of themselves, what would they be? Or something to do to make themselves feel good. What would those tips be?
I always say journaling, because that right, left, that's helping you to prefrontal lobe process those things that need to be dumped out, to being gentle, with yourself. I know when it comes to like love, people have their, various meanings. And I'm like, love is having a standard, a boundary, and something I would tell everyone to look up is called the Assertive Bill of Rights. Everybody should download the Assertive Bill of Rights and write these things out and reflect to yourself, when was there a time in the past that I didn't exercise these rights? And many people will say, well, I never exercised any of these rights. And I said, my favorite one is I have the right to say no. And you can add a spin to it and say, and not feel guilty about it, because a lot of people are living in guilt and shame. And that impacts their boundaries, their standards. Because I said, that's what your boundaries are, your standards, And thirdly, I would say eating more healthy, because what you eat affects how you feel. Doing more research into plant-based supplements, herbs, things like that. I'm like, you would be surprised how taking some plant-based magnesium before bedtime will help relax you. And actually, our bodies are in so much need of minerals that people do not even think about that. If you have anxiety, of course, always run things by the medical doctor, get a blood panel done, see if you're lacking vitamin B and D. I've had clients do that and they found out they start taking a plant-based B complex and their anxiety went down. Their body was craving something, and then that causes the whirlwind of, oh, I'm anxious because something doesn't feel good. So that would be my third thing, to look more into the holistic health and nutrition piece.
I love that you brought up boundaries, because that's pretty much a topic that I address with pretty much everybody. And just today, I spoke to 2 clients about boundaries, right? And one said, well, I have to say yes. And I'm like, And then the other one we talked about, and I said, you teach people how to respect you and how to treat you. So if you're always yes, 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 and if you cancel your plans to accommodate somebody else, you are teaching them that you will do that. So boundaries are huge in my book as well. Yes. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, supplements. Sadly, our food is not as nutritious as what it used to be. So, yeah, I love that. All right. So let's, well, of course, I have to ask you, in your definition, what does rebellious mean?
I'm going to say being rebellious means standing up, not only for yourself, but for those who don't have a voice. And that's what I do. That's why I like writing these articles, because I want to change people's perspective and lives and let them know you can be in the front seat and actually driving your vehicle without other people in the back telling you what to do. Just block them out.
Yes, exactly right. I love that. Love it. And a thought came up and it escaped me, but you said something that made me think of something, and I was like, yes. Oh, yes. Being a voice and a perspective, right? That's the thing I'm excited about, because through Rebellious, I want to change the people's mindset around self-care and prioritizing it, because to exactly what we talked about, it is so important. Sadly, we're not taught to prioritize ourselves. We're not taught to start here first and then spill over. And so many people function on an empty cup, and it's sad. I think it's sad, and they cannot thrive. So, knowing people that there is a support system out there that they can rely on is so important.
Yes. And, I think more people need to be aware of allowing people to, manipulate your feelings, because people can sense and feel, oh, this person doesn't have boundaries or a standard. And that's how many people get roped into these like narcissistic relationships. And so I'm really big on that. with helping my clients, we'll do role play in here when it comes to like relationships, because they've been manipulated in the past. Well, how do I avoid these things? And I'll tell them, I said, this is what the person is viewing and seeing, and this is what they will say. I did an article about how to know you're dating a psychopath, and I sent that to a few of my clients, and they're like, oh my goodness, I stopped talking to this person because they fit all of the criteria. You really helped me. So I'm like, part of self-care is putting you first. And if somebody tells you or make you feel guilty about saying no, red flag, run.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, what advice would you like to give our listeners? That's one great piece of advice right there. Would you like to offer another one or share a favorite quote that you have?
I think, therefore I am. And so we as human beings, we are always thinking, but it's filtering those thoughts. That's why having that conversation, if you look in the mirror and say, well, I don't look good today. Well, who's saying that? Mm-hmm. Is that the truth? Your body's going to tell you. And you may say, well, I'm not sure. Well, maybe change your shirt. Maybe you need a brighter color. Mm-hmm. Having the talks in the mirror. And I tell clients that too. Look in the mirror, talk to him or her, and let them know, what do you need? What do I need today from you? How am I going to keep you safe and sound? And I'm telling you, your body is going to tell, your brain is just going to start lighting up and saying, okay, we need to give ourselves grace. We need to tell ourselves, you know what? I only can do what's in my means. I can't overextend myself, because burnout will catch you and will sit you down if you don't sit down and prioritize your self-care. And that's a big thing across the nation, burnout.
Yeah. And that's something I tell people, stress will kill you. It's not going to be tomorrow, but over time and long term, it will kill you. So you can choose to ignore it. And the important word there is choose, because you have a choice. Mm-hmm. And it's good to, and the other thing I tell people is, you will find time when you prioritize it. So until it's prioritized, you won't have time. You won't have time for it.
Yeah. I think it's the people feel guilt and shame and feel like I have to go. It's a race. And I'm like, you have 3 pots. Let's just say you got 3 pots and you're only operating with 60% energy already. And you're just pouring, So you've poured all that little 60% that you have into these other pots, whether people, places, things, people pleasing. What do you have? Oh, my cup is empty. I have nothing. Well, we need to remove maybe 1 or 2 of these things so you can recoup your energy and focus on the matters at hand.
Fill that cup first and then start pouring out.
And sometimes, and you have to be careful with whom you pour, your cup into, because what if there's a hole in the bottom of their cup?
Yeah, that's a very real example, right? And you can keep pouring and actually, even worse, sometimes what comes towards you is not refilling, right?
Exactly.
But you have to be aware and to have those boundaries to say, this does not serve me well, or this relationship does not serve me well.
Well, your body is going to tell you. There's this, I call it the invisible wall when you're dealing with people. I said, if someone approaches you or you approach them and you feel that, oh,
back.
I said, that's your body saying no. I said, their biggest organism is your skin, right? And I said, your skin has like these feelers that expand. I have to find that study. My mentor gave me, and they were saying that all of the feelers expand and you can feel, hey, something's off. I said, it's not you being paranoid. If something or your gut feeling is telling you something's off about going to this place or this person, I said, then it's something wrong. Mm-hmm. Let's make a detour. And every client I can tell you that I've spoken to, I said, oh, and when I proceeded, I found out on the other side, it didn't serve me well. I said, right. I said, because if there's a fire on the outside of that door and you put your hand on the door and you feel that it's warm, do not open it. I said, that's what your body is doing. I said, do you leave your house door open? No. I said, then why are you leaving this door open? And they're like,
Oh, geez, that's a
I
great.
never thought it. This is your house. You don't have to open the door to everybody or everything.
Yeah, you have to protect it. Yeah, it's your temple. I call this your temple, right? So you got to take care of your temple from the inside out, not from the outside in.
Look out the window, see, oh, it's the male guy. Okay, this is someone that's safe. This is my sibling. This is my best friend. Oh, my cat came back after 2 weeks. So then you can open a door.
Protect your space. Keep yourself safe. I loved our conversation, Dr. Kimberly. For anybody who has questions or wants to follow up with you, what's the best way for people to find you?
I am on Instagram at healthy_mind_counseling. You can find me there. And I'm willing to talk to you, help you, coach you. If you're in one of the states that I'm licensed in, bring you on so you can be healed and be whole. You really want wholeness, and it's attainable. You just have to be ready, step forward, and I'm here to help. We can brain spot some things out.
I appreciate your time, Dr. Kimberly. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Stay rebellious, make it a rebellious day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Can't get enough of those rebellious conversations? Do make sure you subscribe, like, and share with your friends.